I want to start with the actual studies that I could find that were double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled with turmeric that were beneficial. And then I will tell you why turmeric is very net negative. So I'm going to refer back to this paper multiple times in this video, The Essential Medicinal Chemistry of Curcumin by Catherine M. Nilsson. This is published in 2017. And as you can see here in the abstract, she states that more than 120 clinical trials of curcuminoids against several diseases have been done. No double-blinded, placebo-controlled clinical trial of curcumin has been successful. This was a paper written in 2017. A randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind clinical trial of curcuminoids in oral lichen planus, which is an autoimmune condition. The conclusions: curcuminoids at this dose were well tolerated, and the results suggest that for future studies, a larger sample size, a higher dose, and/or a longer duration should be considered because it didn't show any effect. They showed no benefits to curcumin in this randomized, placebo-controlled trial. Let's look at a few others. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled parallel group designed to evaluate the safety and efficacy of curine versus placebo in reducing symptoms of knee osteoarthritis. Why do we believe that curcuminoids in turmeric don't have side effects? They absolutely do. And physiologically, if you inhibit the COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes and the 5-lipoxygenase enzymes in your human body, whether it's with a curcuminoid from turmeric or ibuprofen as a molecule, you will suffer downstream consequences. So yes, there is one double-blind, placebo-controlled trial that shows a reduction in knee osteoarthritis pain with curcumin. Is it magical? No, not at all. And again, we must not ignore the side effects of this molecule. Randomized controlled trials looking at the effects of curcumin on blood lipid levels. This is from Clinical Nutrition in 2013. And if you read the conclusion, they find curcumin supplementation had no effect on serum total LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and HDL-C levels when considering heterogeneous populations. So no effect on lipids. Oral curcumin in the treatment of moderate to severe psoriasis vulgaris. This is a prospective clinical trial. It is not randomized. The response rate was low and possibly caused by a placebo effect or other natural history of psoriasis. Basically, there was no effect. The effects of curcumin on serum cytokine concentrations in subjects with metabolic syndrome, a post hoc analysis of a randomized clinical trial. And what you find is that, yes, curcumin did change some of the cytokine levels. Now, this is actually a very important point to consider. Do you want a polyphenolic molecule from a root that you are eating that clearly doesn't want to be eaten, changing your cytokine levels? Probably not. You want to understand where that inflammation is coming from in the first place. It is a signal that something is wrong. When the fire alarm, you don't silence the fire alarm, which is essentially what a molecule like curcumin may be doing. It's not correcting the root cause. It's not correcting the cause of the fire. It's just turning the fire alarm off. And yet, what we've been so misled by in nutritional thinking is we're turning the fire alarm off. You can say, oh, these cytokines go down, therefore it's anti-inflammatory. Yeah, but whatever is causing that inflammation in the first place is still there. It's just changing your immune system's response in a potentially very negative way long-term. Why are you taking curcumin for inflammation without correcting the cause of the inflammation? I'll repeat it again. Why are you taking curcumin for inflammation without correcting the cause of the inflammation? This is lunacy. Don't just cover the fire alarm. Don't just put in earplugs when the fire alarm is going off. Put out the fire. That's what you should be doing. This is why these molecules don't make any sense to me. But within the nutritional literature, they are hailed as magical because they actually affect cytokines. Well, as the French agency showed us, perhaps affecting cytokines isn't the best thing. Perhaps you want your immune system to work properly and actually be inflammatory when there is a proper reason for it to be inflammatory. Remember, inflammation can be a good thing. And I would argue that it's almost always a good thing. It is a signal that something is wrong and should be corrected. Effects of turmeric extract supplementation on inflammation and muscle damage after a half marathon race, a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial. Before I tell you guys the results of this one, let's think about this. You've just run a half marathon race. Inflammation in your muscles is a good thing. This is when you want inflammation in your muscles. We know that if you abrogate inflammation after a severe bout of exercise or weightlifting, you are going to ameliorate, you are going to lessen your gains. People have just run 13.1 miles. You want inflammation in your muscles to spur muscle growth and repair. Okay, remember that. Now, What does turmeric do? It led to an increase in IL-10, which is a cytokine that's generally associated with resolution of inflammation, perhaps prematurely in this case, and decreased myoglobin in recreational runners in a half marathon race. So they're saying that it's great. Look, it's decreasing their inflammation. It's decreasing the problems with their muscles, except I'm not sure you want to do this. I think curcumin is doing the wrong thing in that position. And I think what we're seeing here is an emerging picture of a molecule from a root that doesn't want to be eaten. That's actually a defense chemical that is programming your immune system in a bad way. Whether you're dealing with ibuprofen or you're dealing with curcumin, molecules have side effects. They all do. But you should not be ignorant to the side effects of things that are, quote, natural molecules like plant chemicals. This is what I've talked about multiple times in my book and other places. We assume that plants are benevolent when in fact they want you dead, or at least they don't want you to eat them. And so they are making chemicals to dissuade you from doing that. You must consider the entirety of the evidence and realize that all of these molecules have side effects. All of these molecules have a package insert, and you must weigh the benefits and the risk. And I would argue that the majority of the time, the benefits are not worth the risk. So what are the problems I see with turmeric? Well, outside of the curcumin, it's a very high source of oxalates. And if you've read my book or you know any of my discussions of oxalates, you know that this oxalic acid can accumulate in humans and potentially cause major issues. So the percentage of oxalate that was water soluble differed markedly between cinnamon and turmeric, which appeared to be the primary cause of the greater urinary oxalate excretion and absorption from turmeric. Turmeric is quite high in oxalates. It's not a good thing. You do not want that many oxalates in your body, and turmeric is a big source of oxalates. So just keep that as an adjunct to all of this other discussion. The dark side of curcumin, it's a great paper. It talks about the fact that, number one, mostly nanomolar range concentrations of curcumin are achieved with massive dosing. The other thing to note, again, is that the oral bioavailability of curcumin without something like piperine is very, very poor. I see this as an indication that your body doesn't want this molecule in it and is going to detoxify it, which we know is true, and excrete it almost immediately. It's not using it as a vitamin. Curcumin is not a vitamin. Piperine is a phase 2 detoxification enzyme inhibitor in the liver. It's going to allow other toxins into your body. The first principles here are very clear, guys. If it is a root, stem, leaf, or seed, which is a seed, nut, grain, or legume, I'm probably going to ask some serious questions about it, and you should too. Back to the roots with turmeric and curcumin, adding piperine to your curcumin to get 2000x dosing is a really bad idea, in my opinion, because of that. I want to draw your attention to the second page of this paper from Burgos, saying a relatively high number of reports suggest that curcumin may cause toxicity under specific conditions. In 1976, Goodpasture and Arrighi found that turmeric caused a dose and time-dependent induction of chromosomal aberrations in several mammalian cell lines. These alterations were observed at concentrations of 10 micrograms per ml. So again, probably higher than you could achieve with any normal dosing of curcumin, but those are the doses at which people have also seen benefits of curcumin. This curcumin concentration of 2.5 and 5 micrograms per ml were shown to induce DNA damage to both mitochondrial and nuclear genomes in cells. These reports raise concerns about curcumin safety, as the induction of DNA alterations is a common event in carcinogenesis. That is the formation of cancer. Curcumin generates reactive oxygen species irreversibly by modifying the antioxidant enzyme thioredoxin reductase. What about thioredoxin reductase? Well, this is interesting because it may be connected with cancer mechanisms. And I didn't talk about any of the mechanisms with curcumin and cancer because I want to point this out. Just because something works in cancer cell line models doesn't mean it's good for healthy humans. Do you have cancer? If you do, maybe there's a separate discussion. If you don't have cancer, why do you think that something that is beneficial in a cancer cell model is going to be translated to you as a healthy individual? That is an assumption that we cannot make. Do you take chemotherapy every day as a vitamin? I hope not. Thioredoxin reductase is irreversibly modified by curcumin. It is irreversibly modified by curcumin. And as they say here, modification of thioredoxin reductase by curcumin provides a possible mechanistic explanation for its cancer preventive activity, shifting the enzyme from an antioxidant to a pro-oxidant. So this is what I'm talking about with regard to cancer. Many compounds which show anti-carcinogenic activity, anti-cancer activity, are pro-oxidants. They cause programmed cell death, also known as apoptosis. They cause DNA damage. You do not want agents that are chemotherapeutic in your body all the time. These are not good mechanisms. The way that these compounds often attack cancer is by causing cell death in the cancer. Do you want that to happen in your healthy cells as well? Curcumin has been shown to not be a compound that differentiates between healthy and cancerous cells. The Essential Medicinal Chemistry of Curcumin by Catherine M. Nilsson. Compound 1, which is curcumin, has never been shown to be conclusively effective in a randomized placebo-controlled clinical trial for any indication. This paper was published in 2017. Curcumin, compound 1, has activity against the hERG channel. You've probably heard me talk about this before. This is a potassium channel. The reactivity of each of these classes has important implications for the potential side effects. hERG channel inhibition related to cardiac toxicity. Compound 1, which is curcumin, has recently been shown to be an active iron chelator in vivo, inducing a state of overt iron deficiency in mice fed diets poor in iron.